On this episode of the podcast, I have with me Carlos Peralta. He is the Director of Data Engineering and Cloud Platform at Moderna Therapeutics. We're going to be talking about data transformation, about data as a growth driver, aligning company needs, ROI, and a lot of the challenges that come to delivering short-term, long-term needs. I'm really excited to have Carlos on. Thank you for being on the show.
Hey, Amir. It's very nice to be here. Yeah, I'm super excited. I'm the Director of Data Engineering and Cloud Platform for Moderna, a little bit over 80 years now with the company. So Moderna, as everybody knows, is a vaccine company. We base our technology on mRNA. And our mission is to actually be focused on the well-being and success on the patient. So even though we were very well known for a single vaccine, we stress out this very much with everybody that we are a platform company. So we have this platform that allow us to develop multiple vaccines. All of them are available in our website for people to check the timelines and the stages where these vaccines are and different pipelines are. But we are a company that is revolutionizing how we do vaccines based on mRNA.
And then obviously the Director of Cloud Data Platform. What are some of those responsibilities?
Yes. So I've been part of digital since day one. So everything that I've been doing here has been always dealing with data and software development and some other topics across digital space. But more recently, in the last few years, I've been in charge of everything data for the company. So my team works horizontally with every vertical of the company. We are in charge of defining the data strategy, data acquisition, organization, data modeling, confirmation of data marts. And not only that, but also the cloud infrastructure behind those data, behind that data set, right? And how you store that data set, how you organize that, control permissions, governability, traceability, security, and everything behind that. So basically, we live in this bubble of data. But as I said at the beginning, we work horizontally with every vertical of the company. So we have the chance to see the big picture of how the company evolved from different angles. So not only, let's say, from the clinical or preclinical spaces, but also from HR, legal, compliance, commercial. So it's quite an interesting journey that we have had in the last 8 years.
I guess we're going to be talking about data transformation and maybe just, I'm going to piggyback. I think this would have been my third point, but I'm going to bring it up now because I think you mentioned something, and I think it's interesting because obviously your title is Cloud Data Platform. You mentioned obviously there is a cloud component, there's a data component. It's gotten a lot more complex, right? Like before, 10, 15, 20 years ago, I mean, you just you'd stick it all in one laptop and you'd crank through, and that was the solution. Now the solution has become very complicated. You do need a cloud component. You need the cloud infrastructure component in the data team. And then you need the data engineering on top because, it's all cloud-based. So the skill sets have become definitely more distinct and more complicated. Is that what you've kind of experienced with the team you've been hiring and growing?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that it is more complicated. It's just that now you have too many options, right? Before, as you said, just one server, one room, good to go, you know where everything is, right? But now, too many cloud providers, right? Too many options, too many services. Each cloud provider has over 300 different services that you can use for multi-purposes. And then when you combine subsets of those 300 plus services, you can come up with a super scalable and maintainable solution. So yes, so cloud infrastructure is key because I think that has been one of the biggest changes in the last 10 years, right? That unblock the growth for everybody, that really unleash the power. Because before, it was really hard to have server rooms and storage was very expensive. Now you can spin up P3 instances, which are GPU instances with 2 clicks in Amazon Web Services, right? And then the storage is basically unlimited in the cloud. So you really don't have to pay much for that. So that really unblocked all the power that we had nowadays for teams to consume data, to store data, organize data. And then, of course, data is nothing if you don't have a plan to get insights from the data. So hiring people and creating these teams around data and cloud platform is not easy, but you are now in a position where you can find talent that can focus on certain areas of that tech stack. So we have been able to hire extremely talented data engineers who understand very, very deeply how ETL processes work, so extract, transform, and load. Some other places we do ELT, which is extract, load, and transform. But also the engineers that are super obsessed on how these things are being stored in a structured way, let's say databases or data warehouses. And then on top of that, you have your DevOps team, right? Who can actually design the cloud infrastructure and make everything scalable and maintainable for the other teams to be able to extract and store that data. More frequent than not, you will find profiles that are covering those three like different layers of the stack. But sometimes it's also very good and very handy to have people that are focused on one, because having that kind of deep expertise and deep knowledge in one of those layers actually helps you to drive decisions more strategically for the long-term solution within your company.
Absolutely. You actually, I think you mentioned something really important there. And obviously, a company like Moderna has a ton of data and it's unleashed the power. And I guess one thing we were going to talk about is aligning the company and the need. And as you've unleashed the abilities of a company to look at different aspects of the data, evaluate the data they have, and put it into play, does it become a bigger, I guess, a larger array of options for a company? Because obviously, you have the power to do almost anything with the data now, and you have to kind of be careful because obviously you could pick the wrong thing, not even the wrong thing, but it's necessarily not the highest value. I mean, is determining the highest value objective for what the data you have, a larger concern as you get more and more data?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I would say that data these days is the most valuable asset that a company has, regardless of your line of business. Of course, for Moderna, it's key in everything that we do. We are a digital company. We are a cloud-born company since day one. So that actually makes us be one step ahead of the rest of the companies. We don't have to go to cloud transformation. We don't have to go to migrations because we're born in the cloud. But yeah, data keeps growing on orders of magnitude, right? We used to collect little data sets. Now it's petabytes of data sets, and it's going to keep growing. So you have a big responsibility into aspects, as you were saying. One is, how do you make sure that you store your data that is accessible for everybody, but you have to define those roles on what are the tools that you want to allow people to use. And it's not that I allow somebody to do something. It's just more like you define those playing rules, right? To make sure that everybody follow the processes, that they know the tools that can actually empower them to do what they do best. So data scientists using any AI or ML tools that they like, analysts to use any visualization tools that they like, but everything has to be within boundaries so you don't lose track of everything, especially because the second aspect of the data is the security and governability, right? You want to make sure that you have full traceability on who's doing what, who is accessing what, especially in a highly regulated space like ours, not only for clinical trials, for personal information, for GDPR, which is basically information that cannot leave certain zones across the globe. So you have to be clear on how are you going to organize that governability and security on top of your data. So big responsibility, a lot of options. And as you were saying, yes, that unlocks and enables a lot of people to do everything that they need to do. But you have to have really well-defined guardrails and standard operation procedures so people know how to act and you know how to react when something goes sideways.
I guess somebody had mentioned on a previous episode, about the offensive capabilities of data. I guess a lot of what we've seen in the past has been a lot of defensive role of data. Go get me the dashboard. Go get me this visualization. Go, looking at legacy. Now we're looking at the offensive side of it, where it's like, hey, data as a growth driver, as its own revenue driving area, and all these different things. I guess when you're looking at the opportunities and you're kind of evaluating, growth becoming that driver, taking an offensive role, how do you evaluate the different areas that you could apply the technology to?
Well, I think the data is everywhere, right? And data for us is giving us the ability to be more proactive instead of reactive. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Dashboards here, dashboards there, visualizations here and there. But now, what actually you're trying to accomplish with those dashboards, with those numbers, right? We want to make sure that we become more proactive and predictive. That's the goal. Make sure that we get things more faster, that we can anticipate what's going to happen with, I don't know, like a hiring trend or a clinical trial or with the commercialization of our vaccine. So you want to be more proactive on all of this. So data it's I don't know, it holds that power, but also holds that responsibility. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it does kind of, and I think what I guess where that growth driver of data is coming from, and kind of tying it back to establishing an ROI for the company, picking the initiatives that has the highest value. I think all those are, obviously you're collaborating with the business side. And again, since you have more data at times, I guess I was wondering if it's harder to see those opportunities, because you could be, slicing and dicing, intersection. I mean, you could be doing so much more with the data. It's endless, as you say. And at some point you have finite resources, finite time. So you have to identify what those, I guess, highest value items will be, and evaluating that, establishing the return on that's critical.
That's absolutely true. So we try to we have a lot of requests in my team, like endless number of requests. And again, we don't have enough hours in the day to help everybody. So we tackle that in two ways. So, and I think it helps us a lot, because the first thing that we do is that we ask for justification. What is the value added? And as you were saying, the ROI for that request. So I want to build this. I want this data set to be acquired. I want this data set to be modeled. Excellent. We have all the technical capabilities and skill sets to do this. But what's the end goal? Is this going to, I don't know, decrease the amount of hours that you're going to invest in a process? Is it going to save you money on hiring new resources? Or is it going to make you more effective at your job? It's going to help you drive those decisions at the business level. So that impact helps us to prioritize where these kind of requests land in our team. And the other thing, in the other side, is that we also enable our business stakeholders with technical capabilities and technical knowledge to go and dig deep in that data. Because even though we interact with everybody and try to collect data that we can for everybody, we're basically, we have to be realistic. We are not going to be an expert in every data set. It's going to be impossible, right? Yes, you get to know a data set that you work frequently on and whatnot, but the business is the one who actually knows the data better than you. So we enable them, and that's why we call ourselves a center of enablement instead of a center of excellence, is because we want to enable our stakeholders to be able to query their own data, right? Some of the businesses across the company have some technical knowledge where they can even model their own data, right? Their own ML models or train their own ML models, right? So we enable all these stakeholders with those capabilities and with the right tools. That's why it's very important that we understand what the request is coming from and where is it going to, what is the value that it's going to deliver, so we can guide our users and stakeholders to the right path with the right tool to be able to achieve their goal. So it is a lot of responsibility, a lot of work, a lot of priorities here and there. But I think that we have found a balance where we say, yes, we are going to tackle this in this order, but we're going to also enable you to go to your data faster. So it makes people very happy, because the ones that need hand-holding more than others, we are delivering a full end-to-end solution. The ones that have more technical background, we are giving them access to their data set faster so they can interrogate that data and start finding the drivers and the data points that they're looking for.
Interesting. I guess, follow-up question to that is, and I've asked the leaders, and I'm kind of curious how you view this. Is, especially in data, there's a rapid pace of change. We're seeing new technologies, new capabilities. I mean, you're constantly being bombarded with what's coming next. How does your team, I guess, stay ahead of that? How do you evaluate those tools to kind of be able to pick out the real options versus the noise? Not being too early, because being cutting edge has its dangers. Not waiting too late, because you don't want to be a laggard. It seems like it's always, I call it more art than science. But how do you deal with that?
That's true. It's more art than science. And well, yeah, we have been as a company always a little bit ahead of the game. And that is again because we were born in the cloud and our mental mindset is to digitize everywhere. So we as a company, as teams, as small organizations within the company, we have always that in mind, right? Digitize everywhere. So we're always looking for the solutions that are going to help us get better and more efficient. But we have to find that balance, right? Because you cannot try every tool. You cannot do a POC for everything that you want to do. It's just have to have that balance of things that you want to accomplish. So how do you do that, and when do you do that? It's a very like time consuming, resource constrained, and you have to identify the tools that you need. So in my team, we are bombarded with new tools. We find new tools from our cloud providers every day. So it is very challenging to keep up with everything. So we only try tools that are going to make our process more efficient. Tools are going to deliver value, but we are always on the sidelines running POCs with different tools as well, just to make sure that we are up to date. We get a lot of visibility in what is coming on beta product from our cloud provider. So we get a lot of opportunities of seeing if this is going to fit our needs, where in our business that's going to land, if it's a need for that particular service, or if there is a service that we know that is going to be excellent for our tech stack. Since we get a lot of visibility early in the game, we have a lot of saying also in how that service should be shaped so it can satisfy the need. So it is, as you were saying at the beginning, again, I repeat this, it's more art than science, but you have to always find the things that you need that are going to make you better and efficient, but never leave unattended the new trends of the market, because you cannot always fall behind.
Absolutely. I guess a follow up to that, just if you can answer, when you guys are doing a POC and evaluating it, what do you look for in terms of results to kind of validate? Go, hey, you know what, this is something we should move further downstream, roll out to a real project or something like that.
Well, it depends on the value that it adds to our tech stack. So first thing is like, does it fit in our tech stack? Are we overlapping other tools? We want to make sure that we want to offer tools not only for our internal development, data engineering, and cloud infrastructure teams, but also the tools that we expose and offer to our stakeholders. We don't want to overwhelm anybody, right? Because if you have 10 tools to do the job, most likely you will choose the one that you're more familiar with, not the best one out of the 10. So we want to make sure that we just offer what we offer what is needed, but again, that the tool fits in our tech stack. Then based on the tool, we also run POCs with different stakeholders for different use cases. So if we're testing a tool for virtualization, then we try to test with data scientists and business stakeholders to understand if they can understand the tool easy, how easy it is to use and whatnot. But also we do a POC internally on how does that fit in our cloud deployments, how easy it is to maintain, how scalable it is, right? So we always try to tackle these POCs from both sides, the technical and the user experience. And at the end, we like to run some surveys with very like specific and tool-oriented questions that will give us the feedback that we need to collect from our POC people, right? So, and then we make a decision. It is a very thorough process because, as I said before, too many options, too many services available. So we want to make sure that we choose the right one. But we don't usually engage POCs with everybody just for the sake of testing. We make a pre-evaluation internally to see if the tool is actually going to be something that is going to add value to our organization.
And obviously, you've got a lot of responsibilities. You've got, the big picture, you're testing, you're delivering. Obviously, you have a roadmap that, we talked about, the priorities with your business stakeholders. And I guess, the challenge with everything, and I mean, in particular data is sometimes, you need some plumbing work done. You gotta put the foundation in. You gotta do some legwork before somebody sees the visualization and or report or whatever it is that they're looking for. And at times, maybe business users are in need of something quicker, and maybe there's a disruption to your roadmap. But juggling those short-term requirements or things that are more urgent, but obviously, given an ideal world, maybe you'd handle differently. You'd put in more plumbing. You'd do more of the. How do you handle like those requests? That are like, hey, you know what? I hate using the word quick and dirty, but like those requests that pop up that are outside the roadmap that you need to, they're business pressing, you've got to get to them, but they obviously are not things that you're going to build out as sophisticated. How do you deal with those things?
Yeah, that's one of the most challenging parts here in Moderna because we move very fast as a company. So one of our mindsets is act with urgency, and another one is pivot fearlessly. So we act with urgency because we understand that when a business stakeholders or a group or organization reach out to us, it's because they have a pressing need to solve an issue that they have today. It's not something that you can postpone, right? Most of the time, it's not something that you can postpone for 6 months and while you do some planning and reorg the entire cloud infrastructure design. So we try to unblock them as fast as possible with the tools that we have today. So sometimes our dirty solutions that we are not completely happy with the implementation, but we understand that it is a band-aid while we have maybe a proof of concept or while we actually streamline the entire process so we can make it more automated. Because one of the things that we focus a lot, and my team focuses a lot, is automation. And it's part of what I was saying at the beginning, that we have a mindset of digitize everything and digitize everywhere. We want to make sure that we can automate as many of these processes because we get too many requests. We cannot babysit projects, right? There's no time for that. So for a small, or low hanging fruits that are not ideal, we unblock the use with the solutions that we have today. But we always, when we do something like that, we always encourage our stakeholders to take a step back after we unblock them and think with us and partner with us to say, yeah, this is a solution that we need long term. So how can we partner to make sure that we design a solution that is more long term, scalable, and maintainable as a company and as an organization? So it is really hard to find that balance. But we want to unblock everybody, make sure that they have a partner in us, that they know that we can support them. And then we help them and partner with them to think to the long-term strategy.
Absolutely. And I think, as you were talking, I was thinking about, these solutions, the short-term, the long-term, you guys are testing. I guess one thing that we hadn't touched upon was adoption. And obviously you guys are rolling out a lot. It sounds like there's it's not like it's not like an environment where delivery is once a quarter. It sounds like there's a lot of delivery. Who tackles, just out of curiosity, who tackles the adoption piece for you or your team, or how does that actually get implemented in terms of making sure adoption is top of the list in terms of making sure users are actually using the stuff?
Yeah, that's an excellent question because again, you can get too many requests that go nowhere. Right. So that's one of the things I was saying before. The justification and the value added of every request is something very important for us to prioritize these requests. But afterwards, we have a lot of mechanisms to track usability of the things that we built. So we control access logs. We know who uses what and where. Everything that we do in our cloud infrastructure is being tracked. And then when it goes to different tools within our organization, so let's say some advanced analytics tools or visualization tools, we also track usability there, right? And we are in a constant review of stuff, we have all those metrics in dashboards and visualization that help us as leaders from the technical point of view to say, yeah, you know what? Maybe this dashboard is not being used anymore. Let's try to ask what's happening. If it's because the data is stale, because it's outdated, or because it's really not used anymore. We don't want to build tech debt. We don't want to build just for building. So we try to enable audit logs in everything that we do to make sure that we have some traceability and some usability metrics around things that we are building as a team.
Awesome, man. I think I could keep continuing and digging into the process, and I know you got to get back to it. Before I let you go, and I really appreciate your time and coming on and sharing. I like to ask all my guests this question because they all come up with something on the spot that's always good. If you could ask a future guest of this show to cover a topic that you'd like to listen to, what's something that you'd like to hear more about?
I'm always intrigued on hear how companies that are big companies are going through the process of the cloud transformation. Because again, for us in Moderna, it's been native. That's how we are. That's who we are from day one. But I want to hear how challenging? What are the learning curve? What's the obstacles and things that you have to overcome when you're a big organization and all of a sudden cloud came and knocked at your door and basically slammed your door and told you, you know what, you have to move with me. How do you tackle those projects? Because companies cannot start or stop on a dime, right? You cannot say, okay, let's pause everything and let's go to the cloud. And usually those processes take a long time, but how efficient are you? How are you adapting to those cloud transformations that are pushing your companies to not migrate from on-prem systems to cloud systems, like change not only the hardware to software in the cloud, but also the talent that you have in the house, right? Like people who are more used to, again, servers in a room or on-prem databases, on-prem servers. How do you make sure that their skill set transfers to the cloud and use them? So that cloud transformation has always been intriguing for me. It is a big challenge, something that I would love to dig more, listen more experiences and how people are tackling with that, because I think that that's a space where we as leaders that were born in the cloud have a lot of opportunity to help others and lend a hand, share experiences, and maybe try to avoid other companies to go through the same painful process that we went through.
Absolutely, that is a good one. I think, especially the larger the company, the more complicated the complex. Yes. So, definitely one to record for. Other question is, we've covered a lot of different topics within data transformation. What's a good way of getting a hold of you if somebody doesn't want to reach out to you? Pick your brain on anything you've mentioned.
Absolutely, yeah, I'm always available. So reach out to me on LinkedIn. We can share my URL later, but you can find me by my name, Carlos Peralta, and I'll be happy to jump on any of these topics. I'm very passionate, Amir, so we can keep talking about this for hours. So happy to help anybody who is interested in listening more.
Awesome. Carlos, thanks for being on. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Amir. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely. That's it for this episode. We'll be back again. Different guest, different topic. Until then, two things. One, if you know someone that has gone through a large data transformation, love to have you on the show, or you yourself. I think it add value to the community. So reach out to me, let me know. Secondly, if you found the podcast useful, share it with somebody else. Like, comment, subscribe wherever you are listening to this episode. I appreciate that very much. Until next time, thank you and goodbye.